was seen by millions and millions of people around the world. I've got pictures of Tim Cook from Apple wearing the merch that we designed with the logo on it, which to me, that's such a huge treat, because it's like Apple is just synonymous with beautiful design and with innovation. And so I got a picture of Robert Redford standing in front of our logo at Sundance. So it's just like the number of people that have interacted with this brand and seen it in one shape or another. I mean, I've said before, it's probably in the billions, even though that feels so high. But I mean, that's what they've told me, is that it's had that sort of a reach. And so it's really cool to think that something that I put together in 30 to 45 minutes, with the skills that I had in my living room, had that sort of an appeal and approach to so many individuals.
Welcome to the Jeff Glines Show, where success isn't just about the destination, but the journey. Behind every success story lies untold challenges and lessons. I'm Jeff Glines, and I'm here to take you behind the scenes with business leaders and entrepreneurs. We'll explore the real stories behind the success, the challenges, the late nights, and the breakthroughs. If you're looking for raw, real insights into the world of business, you're in the right place. Subscribe to the Jeff Glines Show on your favorite podcast platform. Join us for new episodes every week, and let's dive into what it really takes to succeed. All right, welcome today. We have a wonderful guest, Jacob A Munson. He is the marketing director at the Piano Guys. Since August 2023, Jacob has been leading strategic marketing initiatives, enhancing brand growth and audience engagement across various channels, including graphic design, website management, video production, email marketing, merchandise, tour marketing, social media, and affiliate marketing. But before joining the Piano Guys, Jacob founded Venture Creative Studios, Southern Utah's top creative agency, which he successfully led until his sell in 2023. His leadership secured high-profile clients like Dan Reynolds of Imagine Dragons and Tim Cook of Apple. Jacob's innovative and strategic approach has made a significant impact in the marketing world. So we're thrilled to have Jacob here and share his insights and his experiences with us today. So welcome to the show, Jacob.
Appreciate it, Jeff. It's exciting to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I want to hear. We'll have to hear your story with Dan Reynolds and Tim Cook.
Yeah, they're associated with the same project, but that was a really cool project that got just some insane leverage across the world in terms of how many people interacted with and engaged with that brand. Really a cool opportunity.
Well, yeah. Well, tell us about it. I want to hear. I want to hear about it. Yeah.
No,
tell me
so
what you did.
so I had the opportunity. I had a friend that I was really close to in college that he reached out and said, "Hey, I'm working with Dan Reynolds of Imagine Dragons. He's working on a project. He wants to kick off a concert series that's kind of a benefit concert series that's specifically for teens who identify as LGBTQ, and it's specifically focused on suicide prevention and kind of in the state of Utah and some of the struggles there." Dan's got a strong identity with the state of Utah, having gone to BYU and has lived in the state for a long time of Utah. And so they didn't tell me any of this first. They didn't say anything really. All they said is that it's a music production. The music festival will be called Love Loud, and that it's going to be focused on the LGBTQ and suicide prevention. And so he's like, he's looking for submissions. He wants to see people's artwork on this that can throw it in there if you want to throw your hat in the ring. And I said, yeah, sure. I had literally started my business that same year, or if not like 6 months earlier. And so truth be told, I spent like probably 30, 45 minutes, put some concepts together. One that I really liked that was this geometric heart image with some really fun kind of colorful gradients that were kind of a play on the rainbow flag, but were a little bit more unique, and sent it off thinking that's the end of that. And, next thing I know, I'm on the phone with him and Dan Reynolds, and Dan says, "I'm not looking at anything else. This is the brand that we're going to go with." And so for the next couple of years, it was fun to be able to kind of serve as a advisor as they put this brand into action. So they would have to merge it with AT&T and some of the brand assets that they needed with AT&T. They would figure out how to have it appeal to a larger audience. And again, yeah, it had such a high visual appeal to so many individuals. I mean, it was seen by millions and millions of people around the world. I've got pictures of Tim Cook from Apple wearing the merch that we designed with the logo on it, which to
Wow.
me, that's such a huge treat because it's like Apple is just synonymous with beautiful design and with innovation.
Yeah.
And so I got a picture of Robert Redford standing in front of our logo at Sundance. So it's just like the number of people that have interacted with this brand and seen it in one shape or another. I mean, I've said before it's probably in the billions, even though that feels so high. But I mean, that's what they've told me, is that it's had that sort of a reach. And so it's really cool to think that something that I put together in 30 to 45 minutes, with the skills that I had in my
Uh,
living room, had that sort of an appeal and approach to so many individuals.
oh, that's awesome. And that obviously led to you opening up Venture Creative because you're like, hey, I want to do this on my own now and do that. So maybe step us through a little bit of when you started up Venture Creative and maybe some of the struggles you had, but some of the wins that you've had with Venture Creative and that marketing agency.
Yeah, for sure. So I started it in 2017 out of a need to start it, because I was in a place where I was working, I was not super comfortable. I was working for an ad agency, an unnamed ad agency in Salt Lake City. The people that I worked with were amazing. The work that we were doing was really fun and engaging. But there was some sketchy stuff going on. There's a little bit of, I mean, the one that I always run back to is I had somebody at that agency in leadership ask me to Photoshop their driver's license for them.
Oh
And
gosh.
yeah, like that's the kind of stuff and I was like, oh, dude, this is not how I want to identify. And
Yeah.
and so there was a lot of stress and issues on that back end. And so, I remember having a conversation with my wife. I was like, I feel like I'm leading a team on my own as is right now.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
don't we just run this out and do this on our own accord? And, I was fortunate enough to have a decent network of people that were ready to put me to work immediately. I mean, Venture Creative was born as a freelancing design agency. That my first client was Young Living Essential Oils. I was literally taking product manuals for their oil diffusers and translating them into like they would give me the Chinese translation, and then I'd run that translation through the design and make sure everything was like formatted correctly. And really quickly, it started to gain some traction, just based off of people that I knew, conversations that I was having. And I started to find ourselves pretty busy pretty quickly. And within 6 months, we started to see a trend that many of our clients were from Southern Utah. I was living in Salt Lake at the time,
Uh,
and I'm from Southern Utah. I'm from St. George, and so I found that kind of interesting. I was finding myself on the road 3 or 4 times a month, going down to meet with clients and stuff there. So my wife and I made the decision, and we packed up the U-Haul and bought a house and headed down there. And that's kind of where we set up shop to be, just like you said, St. George's premier marketing and advertising creative agency. And yeah, it was fantastic. We got to meet and work with some of the most incredible individuals. Like I mentioned, Dan Reynolds with Imagine Dragons. We interfaced with Bosch mixers. We even did a project for the company Manscaped at one point.
oh wow.
So really cool household names. I'm fortunate enough to have been introduced to the Piano Guys due to you and your son. So that's been a dream come true for me in various aspects. But I also really liked working with the smaller businesses, the smaller local businesses.
Yeah.
We got to work with Sand Hollow Resort out in Hurricane, and that was just so much fun. From taking everybody out on the UTVs and filming promo videos out there, to covering concerts and building style guides and branding for that. I mean, that really was fun. All the way down to like your little ma and pa shop on Main Street, little pet stores and stuff. So the variety for me was probably one of my favorite things. Is one day you could be working on building a website for a health spa in southern Utah, and the next you are working with international rock stars. So just the variety and type of work that we were able to do was really, really fun for me. In terms of challenges, I think one of the biggest challenges is, we started to grow quickly, and we started to make hires. And as we started to make hires, I began to realize that now your brand, this thing that you built, other people are carrying that and carrying the importance of that. And when other people make mistakes, which they're going to do regardless
Yeah.
of what happens, they're going to make mistakes. When they do that, you have to answer for that. You've got to take the ownership to say, yes, we made a mistake, but here's how we're going to rectify it. The frustrating thing would be when it was a mistake that could have been completely avoided by just either slowing down or paying attention or whatever it is. And now you as the owner have to speak to the client and answer for that mistake. That was difficult, but it really taught me, like I said, that ownership, that ability to just take it, run with it, and talk about how you can do better. I feel like some of our most productive conversations as a team and as a company were on the back ends of failure, where we could say what went wrong and
Yeah.
how can we avoid that here in the future? How can we build that into a strength that we're going to eventually master?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that probably makes it easier, and the employees want to stay there at the company because you're not shaming them or getting mad at them, but you're just stepping them through the process of like, hey, this is how we can do better. Ask me next time if you have any questions, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think it's important to we employed so many young people. I was always the oldest person there, and I'm only 33 now. So, I owned this agency from like what 20, 25, 26 and onward. And everybody, as I was growing, was always at least a year or two younger than me. And the thing I loved about employing young people is they have a thirst for knowledge, and they're tenacious about getting into the marketplace and just getting out there and making stuff happen. And there were many times where I would make hires based on somebody's tenacity and anxiousness to get out there and make stuff happen, and not just where they'd been and who they'd worked for and what their experience was. Often I really do believe that most skills can be taught on the job, and it's somebody's tenacity to get after it and make that something meaningful for them that really dictates how quality of an employee they're going to be. And I found that happen time and time again. I really enjoyed doing that.
yeah. I remember you guys were going to do a shoot, and my son was working for you,
Yeah.
and you guys needed a boat. I think it was the Sand Hollow.
Yeah,
One.
it
You needed
was.
a boat, so we took our boat out there, and I remember you're like flying the drone on the lake, and it was
Yep.
kind of windy, and all of a sudden, I don't know if it was myself that grabbed the drone out of the air. Was
It
it me?
was. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. What happened was
you couldn't land it.
well, I'd started the landing sequence, and in that moment, like you said, it was windy. The boat lurched forward, and the drone just continued to go down into the water. And I think it actually like touched the water, and the sensors realized it, and it shot back up for just a brief moment. And in a moment of bravery on your part, you reached forward and
I
grabbed that
grabbed it,
drone,
I was like,
and
that was that was a
so
lifesaver. That was kind
you
of
did.
funny.
You saved me a couple $1,000s on that one, and I want you to know that I kept that drone safe for the remainder of my ownership. But since I've sold the company, I have been informed that it has given up the ghost. It was involved in a wreck, and I mean it was obliterated, like arms
Uh,
falling off and everything. So
that,
I owe you for that. At some point, we need
oh
to
yeah,
do a project for
I
that.
remember that. So yeah, it was good times. But I know my son just he had so much fun working. I remember when he applied for the job, he just like he goes, this looks like a cool marketing job, And I remember him like writing up his stuff and sending it into you. He's like, yeah, the guy wants to talk to me, And anyway, yeah, he ended up, yeah, and since then, obviously, you guys have had a relationship over the years, and that's kind of been fun to see him because he loves marketing too. I think he has the same kind of passion that you have for doing marketing. But now he's kind of doing something a little bit more, traditional with his current stuff that he's doing. So,
Yeah,
but
Ashton, he was in one of our best hires, I always say, just because he had that tenacity that I was telling you about.
yeah,
Like he had this desire to just go after it, dive in, learn as much as he can. He was like, put me on stuff I don't understand so I can learn how to do it. And I'll never forget when we were driving down to Vegas where he came up with the idea for his first business, FanFest.
oh
And it
yeah,
was at that moment that I was like, shoot, we lost him because he like, I know this kid, he's going to go after it. And I'm so glad he did. Like the fact
Yeah.
that we were able to support that and build that was so cool to see somebody take something from idea inception to execution in the way that he did. That was really something special to be a part of.
Yeah, it was awesome to see that. I don't think he realized how big of a job it was to run events because it's.
Oh, right. I mean,
I
if
mean,
any of us knew how much work business ownership was.
Jeff Glines here, and before we get back to the show, I just want to share a quick tip for all you business owners. If you haven't heard of dual pricing when it comes to payment processing, then I want to share my free guide on how to eliminate 100% of your credit card fees in your business. And I'll share a link in the description. Go ahead and click on that link. You're not going to want to miss this, and you can thank me later. Back to the show.
Like we never would have. It's like parenting, right? Like you love being a parent and it's like one of the most fulfilling things you ever do. But if somebody were to sit you down and help you really understand what it's like, none of us would probably opt for that. I don't know. That's how I feel sometimes.
Yeah, well, tell us more about that. Like for someone that's thinking about starting a business, I mean, obviously we don't want to scare them away, but at the same time, what's some things that they could do to maybe have a mindset to go into it and be able to start a small business or a business?
Yeah. No, I think that, I joke, but I really do think business ownership is one of the best things that you can do. I really think it is the best way to build wealth in America
Yeah,
is ownership. Because if you're going to work for somebody forever, you're limited. Your earning potential is limited. Your access to experience is going to be limited, and there's nothing wrong with it.
yeah,
Business ownership is not for everybody, but I really do believe that one of the best ways that you can build and grow wealth in America is through business ownership. And it doesn't need to be some big thing where you've got employees and a location. Business ownership could literally just be you hustling on the side, making something happen. It really is. It really is an amazing thing. The biggest thing that I would share with prospective business owners would be twofold. The first thing is there's a quote by Walt Disney that says something along the lines that the best way to get started on something is to quit talking and start doing. And I'm just paraphrasing that, but
yeah,
that quote sat with me and has sat with me for probably 20 years because there's so many times that people will just sit and stew on ideas or sit
hmm
and stew on possibilities, and they'll work through it and they'll shop it in their brain and they'll perfect it, and at the end of the day they'll never get out and actually get after it. And I don't know if that's through fear of mistake or fear of failure or just the pressure that comes along with it. But the only way you're going to get something happen is if you just start doing it, and you will mess up, you will make mistakes, you are going to tick some people off, you are going to do some embarrassing things that are going to keep you up at night 20 years later. But that's the best way to learn, and the best way to get better is to just
yeah,
dive in and just start. The other thing I'd say along with that is that organization is everything. The biggest way that you can be successful in life is when somebody reaches out to them, you reconnect with them and answer your emails. Like the amount of times
yeah,
that it's hard to get a hold of people, they don't stay organized. Um, that organization is key, just keeping everything under where where everything is, you have access to everything. Cleanliness, all of that sort of stuff is so paramount when starting a business and when operating a business. And I know a lot of issues can be solved by having a structure and having cleanliness and having organization within your organization. And that's everything from managing your files to managing your workspace to like knowing what your target market is and knowing who your audience is, and just having a base layer that has been formed to understand how best to go out and accomplish your task and what you're doing as a business owner.
So when you say clean, what do you enlighten me on that? Or
I mean, I literally think cleanliness is in like the space that you're working in. Like,
oh,
how many CPA firms have you gone into where there's piles of papers
oh,
everywhere and they've lost your 2021
yeah,
tax return and you're wondering where it is? Like, how many times I literally just a week ago had a electrician come over to help me install a mini split. The guy has not sent me an invoice yet. And I've reminded him 3 times. It's like, I swear some people just don't want to get paid. But if you can find like structures and systems to help you with your organization, everything from your invoicing to your strategy to your workspace to your like a deck of all of your contacts, keeping yourself organized is going to be one of the best ways to keep your business successful, because it's in that chaos and disorganization where trouble starts brewing and things start happening. That's
Mm.
where you start realizing that you've messed up on something. And I had a client who, they had an SEO firm that was billing them for 2 years and they didn't do a day's worth of work. Somehow the billing side of the company had gotten their part together and was drawing on their credit card and billing them, but the actual service part of the company, the ball had been dropped somewhere. So 2 years worth of work that they'd been billed for and hadn't done a dime for. And they worked it out where they're like, okay, well, now we're going to give you 2 years worth of work, but who's going to actually do really good work knowing that the pay's already been collected? That incentive is all of a sudden just kind of
Yeah.
diminished, and the
Interesting.
partnership is just spoiled at that point, right?
Yeah.
So it's things like that and genuine human mistakes that I really do think like that organization and cleanliness can make a huge difference.
I love that. I mean, it's kind of like you said, the piles of paper on a desk probably tells you how the brain is, how your brain is, because it like there's so much static in there if your workspace is, not very clean. And I'm
Oh,
I'm one
right.
that I have to really intentionally go, okay, I need to clean my desk off before I start working today. So and I noticed that, yeah, you have this clearer mind, and you actually start to check off tasks faster. You start to like everything, and then something gets out of line, you move it back, and it's like, and then everything is so much more manageable. So yeah,
Yeah.
I totally get that.
I have the analogy of like, imagine you were to hire a fitness coach or a fitness tutor or whatever, um,
Uh-huh.
and you go in for your first meeting with him, and the guy's like 70, 80 pounds overweight, and he's just like munching on a Big Mac while you're lifting weights, right? There's a disconnect there when you see that. You're like, okay, that doesn't work. I've had this experience. Like, I've hired wealth advisors who I get on the call, and they're sitting there in a grubby basement with just garbage all behind them with their little headset, and they're complaining about how they have to go on vacation with their family and they'd rather just stay home and work. And I worked with this person for a couple months till I realized like this is not the person I want taking care of my money. And so I made a switch to somebody who I was like, they have built their life around their values, have been
Yeah.
built around their business. And I think that's so important, is figuring out what your values are as a business owner and as an entrepreneur, and
Hmm.
really building your brand around that. Because whether you know it or not, it's people are going to notice. They're going to notice in one way or
Yeah.
another.
Yeah. It's the disconnect. It's like, well, why am I working? Why is this person helping me when they can't
Yep.
even keep their own life in order?
Right.
How can they possibly help me? Yeah,
Exactly.
I totally get that. Um, this is kind of like more of a, a marketing question. Like, how has the digital transformation impacted marketing? Just all the different tools and AI and everything like that. I mean, it's just constantly changing, like every single day. I mean, it's not even a month by month. It's like literally day by day. So, how do you think that's going to impact or has impacted the marketing?
Yeah. Let me do a quick search because there's one stat that I want to share with you that's
Oh,
really
okay.
wild here. It's
Yeah, it's just crazy all the different tools that are out there, and especially with the artificial intelligence, with all the automation and like things like auto conversations, like AI conversations. I've listened to some
mhm.
pretty cool tools. Like, holy crap, this guy's he's a robot, but he says he's not a robot because you ask him, "Are you a robot?" And he says, "Oh, I'm a human just like you." And I'm like, "What the heck?" So, but anyway, did you find it? Did you
Yeah,
find it
yeah.
on there?
So the stat that I was looking for, because this is the one that blew my mind, and this was even like middle of COVID, so before the advent of AI. The Google search algorithm, like the SEO algorithm,
Uh huh.
roughly makes about 5,000 changes every year. And that equals to about 13 to 14 times a day the algorithm changes. staying ahead of that and on top of that is next to impossible. It's like you said, the advent and the changes in the industry and with technology is huge. My wife and I laugh because I went to school for graphic design and she went to school for marketing. That's why we kind of joined forces and started
Uh-huh.
our little agency. But if she looks at her, like we both loved our education and the people that we spoke to. But even then, this would have been like 2012, 13. It was when we were going to school. The
Uh-huh.
concepts we were being taught then were already out of date, right? Like my wife was going to school and they were teaching her how to send out surveys to customers, like emailed or handwritten surveys. There was no mention of social media. There was not a whole lot of coverage on SEO. Like their marketing concepts felt like they were a decade old. And while we were like completely away and ahead of that game, and that's just how it is. I mean, I look at when I started the agency in 2017, the sort of topics and things that we were covering then, we were way into like social media and organic social media. And by the time we finished, I mean, I won't forget when I had an employee basically approach me in private and says, "Hey, our social media practices are extremely outdated." And I was like, "Oh." She's like, "What you're doing might have worked in 2017, but it's not working now and we need to make some changes." And I was like, "Great. Like surround
Yeah.
yourself with people that are smarter than you." I hate managing social media. I knew it was kind of a necessary evil with our
Yeah.
agency, so we did it. But we had to make a pivot. Like we were still so image focused and
Mm-hmm.
image and text. And she was like, "This is all about video and we need to build our content team. We need to start creating more video content." So you're right. There is some insanity to that level. In fact, I kind of count myself a little bit lucky. I feel like I got out right around the advent of AI. In fact, I remember at the end of my agency ownership, just kind of introducing the team to Chat GPT and saying, I think there's opportunities to use this strategically so that we're not just, inputting and outputting and just kind of
Yeah.
regurgitating its output, but I said, let's look for opportunities to use this to make our life easier. And it's funny because there are definitely some who were resistant, and then there were others who were really excited about the advent. And now, a year and a half later, it's like, I mean, if I was still owning the agency, I would make some massive changes to the way that we had structured things based on the technology that is out now. And if we can, which this is really hard to do, trying to anticipate the future and see where it's going and where your value is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I look at Photoshop. There would be times where we would have to create let's say, a YouTube thumbnail, and the artwork that we've got is just like a small square piece, and we've still got, a 1920 by 1080 is much more rectangle. We've got another 2/3 of the artboard we got to make. And so we're finding like background images, and then we're like cutting and pasting, and then we're trying to like merge it to make it all look together. Now it's like you can take your square artwork, load it into Photoshop, select the empty space and say generate, and boom, you've got a thumbnail like that looks pretty dang decent. And it's like
Yeah.
you've now taken a job that would have taken 4 or 5 hours at our agency and you've done it in 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a, yeah. AI is changing and revolutionizing for sure. It's crazy. Um, let's go to what would you share to maybe some aspiring marketing or people that want to get into marketing and do that. What would you share with them? And obviously they're up and coming. They probably know more than we do.
It's
Because
true, man.
but,
It's true.
but
Yeah.
you can but business wise, I mean, they might know how to do marketing, but business wise, like if you're going to get into marketing, what's some things you could tell them specifically for
Yeah.
marketing?
Yeah. That's a great question. Some of the things that I would want to say is continual education. I mean, we're kind of covering that already, like be
Yeah.
on the
Hmm.
top of what's happening, read the trends. I think it's actually really important to be kind of on top of what's happening from a trend standpoint. Like what's
Hmm.
happening on TikTok, what's trending, what are people getting excited about? Because your creativity, especially, and marketing is an extension of creativity. It relies on everything that's come before us. And if you're completely oblivious to that and are just kind of living in your own little world, like you can't build on what other people have done. This is such a dumb example, but like 3 weeks ago, my cat went viral on TikTok. We're talking 5.6 million views of my cat dancing to a Katy Perry tune. And literally what it was is I had seen that people were making fun of Katy Perry's new release. They were like, it sounds like AI. It's kind of It's got weird, like really poorly written lyrics. Like it just sounds bad. And I saw one comment, and we were laughing at him, looking at him, my wife and I saw one comment that said, "This sounds like the kind of song that you would sing to your cat," right? And like the lyrics are like sexy, confident, so intelligent, so soft, so strong. And I was like, this totally is. And so I said to my wife, I was like, let's just film our cat and just throw it up. I was like, I bet you it might go somewhere. So just for fun, like we put our hands under his arms and he's like got his arms out like this and just dancing to the music. Put the headline on there. This sounds like something you would sing to your cat. And it's like 5.5. Like I seriously, I can pull it up. It's so funny because it's like the main.
Was it on TikTok? Was it TikTok or Instagram?
TikTok? Well, it was on TikTok. The main video is obviously Katy Perry's video, and then right next to her video is my stupid orange cat, just like right, like you can see that right there. But if I pull up the audio, right, you've got Katy Perry right here, and that's my cat 2 videos away. Like I'm guaranteed she's seen that, right? But the whole idea is this: you've got to be on top of what's happening in the trends. Like, what are people doing? You got to educate yourself and be on that top edge. Otherwise, you'll be like I was, where I was like, well, this is working on social media, and I've got to have somebody who's like almost a decade younger than me come in and basically be like, you are way off base here. You're way off base.
Doing videos.
Right. Yeah. So that would be one. I think obviously the education and staying on top of trends. The other thing I think that's important is, especially in marketing, is honesty, transparency, and relationship building. I saw way too many marketing agencies, people that I interacted with, people that I worked with, companies that I worked for, that they come across as a scam right now. Like you'll talk to a lot of small business owners that have employed marketing agencies. It definitely feels like a little bit of a snake oil scheme, right? In fact, in my pitching, when I was talking to a potential new client and trying to sell them on working with us, I would always ask them if they've had a bad experience with a marketing agency in the past. And I want to say it was like 9 out of 10 people had some sort of experience, whether with a freelancer, a family member, another agency, another company, where they've been burned, wasted marketing dollars before. So knowing that, I made it a huge priority to build our agency on those pillars of trustworthiness, on honesty, and transparency. I really wanted to help them kind of join us on the journey so they knew what we were doing. I think so many times people will send over reports. It's like, okay, here's how your social media is doing. And it's like, there's terminology they don't even know on there. They don't know how to interpret this. To be able to walk through that and go through those together, I think it's a big thing. And then honesty. I mean, if you make a mistake, own up to that mistake and tell them how you're going to make it better. I mean, we had them before. We had emails. We once had a situation where a client, they had their suppressed emails, right? They had a list of emails of people who had unsubscribed. And so they still had their data, but they're no longer allowed to subscribe to them. Well, somebody on our team made a mistake and ended up like resubscribing. I want to say like 20,000 people that had already previously unsubscribed.
Oh, man.
And then we started sending emails to them. And now they're getting angry emails from people who are like, I definitely unsubscribed from you. What are you doing? And that was tough, especially because my project manager had to answer for it, even though she had nothing to do with the mistake. And so she took it amazingly. She said, here's what happened. Here's what we're going to do to make sure that doesn't happen again. And here's how we're going to fix the problem. And if you can address those 3 things and just be honest with people, you're going to keep clients a lot longer. And just build relationships with people. Like too often we treat the marketing agency as an entity and the client, the business, as an entity. And we forget that behind those entities, there's humans and individuals. And too many times I've seen people not treat each other with respect. I've seen yelling. I've seen name calling. Like I've even like at the marketing agency, I'd have to call out some team members occasionally if they start complaining about a client. I'm like, I get it. I know it's frustrating, but I said, the more you engage in that type of conversation, you're just going to start really developing kind of a feeling of yuckiness towards that client. And your work is going to show that when you're doing that. I was like, we have got to make sure we don't fall into the trap of just continually bad mouthing your clientele, because all it's going to do is produce worse output on your end. Like, it's at the end of the day, it's a relationship between humans. If you can't remember that and you can't engage in that properly, you shouldn't be engaging in service-based industries like that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's amazing how just being honest and transparent, how far that goes. People realize that there's mistakes made, but if you're just transparent with them and not trying to hide anything, and you're just honest with them and doing honest work for an honest wage, and it goes a long, long way. That's why I was never hesitant to refer business over to you. And that's what, seriously, that was a main key factor, was like, I know that Jacob will take these guys and see if there's an opportunity and help them. And it's not going to come back to bite me, because I know Jacob will take care of them. So that was a big thing. That's why I was like, hey, yeah, call my friend Paul at the Piano Guys. He's looking for somebody. And I'm like, I know Jacob is going to hit it off with Paul, and it's going to be all good. And yeah, so it is a huge thing. And that just shows you that now people are working outside of your company are referring business over to you, because you have that transparency, that trustworthiness, and everything that's there. So I totally appreciate that. That just makes it so much easier to refer business to, and people want to work with you if you are. I got a fun question for you, Jacob, here.
Yeah.
What's the most unconventional marketing tactic you've always wanted to try?
Oh man. Oh man. That's a great question. Let's see.
Unconventional marketing tactic.
Okay, I've got one. I've always wanted to do something that's experiential, whether it's like some sort of a flash mob, or something that's set up in a way that people interact with in an environment way that really sells the product, whatever it is. Like, you've seen the ones where it's like they go up to a bus stop and they can see an X-ray of themselves, and it reacts to them. So they're dancing or whatever, and they're waving, and people are interacting with it. And then out of the blue, this bus slams into their X-ray, and they're just like taken aback, like, what in the world just happened? And then the ad comes up that says something along, it's like safety. It's literally a safety PSA campaign. But just that like experiential sort of a thing is just so rad. Like, I love
almost like real life, like like they don't know it's coming or something, is what you're saying.
And we kind of got to do that in one regard once. It was really fun. We had a client he was working on a system where it was a series of little QR code stickers that were brandable. So you could brand them with your own identity, your own profile pictures or whatever. And you would tape these stickers to items of value, like AirPods, or not really your phone, but like your bag or your laptop, or even your bike or whatever. And the idea is if something of value got lost and somebody found it, they would scan that QR code, and it would open up a one-to-one private chat in their app with that person to be able to collect it again. Now, again, this was before the air tags and tracing and stuff. So it almost kind of like didn't quite get executed in the way that we were hoping. But we did do a thought experiment like that, where we went onto a university campus and we literally dropped like a Gen 1 AirPod case before they could get tracked in the grass, and like 5 or 6 of us would just film it from like different perspectives and just watch what people would do. And really, most people did try to figure out what to do, or they would scan it, and then we would like go up and interview them and talk to them and say, hey, how was that experience or whatever. I will say that worked a lot better in Southern Utah than it did in Las Vegas on the Strip. And let's just say, I can't remember, it wasn't an AirPod, but whatever the item was value, I think we lasted a total of 5 minutes and that was done. We were like racing after this guy, being like, hey, that's ours. And he just takes off, and we're like, well, guess we're done with that one.
Yeah, you need a little leash to it, or a little fishing line, right?
Zap them when they do steal it, or whatever.
Or some a rope up ahead, you could trip them, right?
Yeah, the spikes on the tires, right? Yeah.
So something more like interactive, live type of a marketing tactic that would be fun.
Yeah, something that kind of takes somebody out of their everyday experience. I think that stuff is really exciting to me, because so many times people are just scrolling has just become this thing where to really stand out, it's
It's
really
really hard.
difficult. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just getting harder and harder. So brands really have to discover ways to get in front of people in kind of new and meaningful ways. That's one of the things I love about working with the piano guys is we get to do things while we're on tour. We do get to
Uh,
experiment a little bit,
yeah.
and that's really fun to we experiment marketing different things in different ways, and we've had good success. We've had failure too that was like embarrassing failure, but it's fun to I've always said that marketing, like, you got to temper your expectations. It's literally throwing wads of spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. The key is to just keep throwing, and then when something is sticking, stick with that, no pun intended, and figure out how can you build something around that, because it really is trial and error. I mean,
Mhm.
when Google changes its algorithm 5,000 times in a year, you've got to really experiment and try new things and be proactive, and then look for patterns for when things are working and really try to dig into that and make that happen.
That's cool. That's awesome. So if if you could have dinner with a famous marketing person, a marketeer, living or dead, who would it
Ooh,
be, and what would you ask them?
ooh. It'd probably be a two-way tie, and they're both dead. One would be Walt Disney.
Uh-huh.
I really, the best thing about Walt Disney is he mastered the art of storytelling. And I think in today's day and age, the best marketers are the best storytellers. They can tell a
Mhm.
story regardless of what the product or the service is. They know how to tell a story. And literally, I think that's what I'd ask. I would just want to hear it, because that man just had so many stories. It was from his personal life down to his experience while he was building the parks and building, movies and recruiting for that. Like his mindset of just anything is possible. We've just got to figure out how, and
Yeah.
shut up and let's actually start doing it. That's really really something I'm super attracted to. Um, the other person would be, and again, it's a super cliche one, but I would love and hate, I'm sure, dinner with Steve Jobs. I probably would only last with him for like 20 or 30 minutes before he threw his food at me and told me to get out because I said some horrible thing. Because I have talked to, I actually got to know a lady that lives out in Ivan's, amazing woman who had the chance to work directly with Steve Jobs. In
Uh-huh.
fact, she was on the marketing campaign that was Think Different. And she's even given me the rainbow Apple logo keychain that's the Think Different campaign from the 80s.
Wow.
And
Oh,
so she said she saw Steve fire somebody in the time that it took to ride an elevator from the bottom to wherever they were going. Like, that's how quickly he was able to make snap decisions and stuff like that. If he would ever endure a dinner with me, I would just want to build on his thought process of pushing past good and getting to best from an experience and from a design perspective.
hmm.
One of the stories I heard, and I can't remember if it was from her or from elsewhere, was um, while they were designing the first iPhone, Steve came into a pitch meeting, and they presented him with it might have been the iPod, not the iPhone, but they
Uh-huh.
presented him with a pretty sturdy brick, and they were like, "Here's your iPod. This is the product." And he looked at it and he was like, "Got to make it smaller." And they're like, "Yeah, that's not going to happen. It's impossible. It can't be done." And he's like, it has to happen." And they were kind of fighting a little bit back and forth. And he eventually took that iPod, walked over to a fish tank, and dropped it in. Now, this is their only prototype, right? And all the components are soaked now. And he looks at that and looks at them and says, "What do you guys see?" And they're like, "A ruined prototype." And he goes, "No, I see bubbles coming out of the iPod. That tells me that there's airspace, which tells me that there's room and you can make it smaller." And he left the meeting, and they went and did that. And what I love about it is just this idea that impossible is not an option, right? Like, that was one of my biggest frustrations when working in my marketing agency, is when clients or coworkers would come to me, I'd be like, "Hey, let's think about doing something like this." I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, it's not possible. It can't be done." I'm like, "That's not true. We either don't have the skills, the finance, or the time to make it happen.
Wow.
It's either knowledge, money, resources,
Uh-huh.
or time. And if you can figure that out, it's anything is possible. Anything is doable if those things align. And 9 times out of 10, I would fight on that. And sometimes I'd be wrong and I'd be like, okay, we can't do it, but maybe we can revise it and tweak it so it can be done in this way. But there were plenty of times where I may have smugly been like, found the direction to make it happen, presented it, and they kind of just sullenly, and I don't mean that to
Yeah.
disparage anybody, but I mean it in a way that it's just like so many times people come up to a brick wall that's stopping them, whether that's like I said, whether it's in any of those regards, and they consider something impossible, and they'll just sit down and sit next to the brick wall, and they'll either wait for instruction, wait for direction, or they'll just sit and hope nobody notices.
Mm-hmm.
And the most annoying thing in the world to me is that stop of progress. It's like, no, we're going to find a way over, around, or through this wall by coming up with opportunities and options, and just being a little bit like push up against those boundaries. That's what they're there for. I can't remember what the book was called. I think the book is called The Last Lecture. It's an awesome, tiny little book if you haven't read it. But he says something in the last lecture that the brick walls aren't meant to stop us. They're meant to show us how bad we want something, and meant for us to prove how bad we want something. Thought that was really cool. That's another book that I read probably a decade ago that's just stuck with me.
I like that. I like that. So kind of in closing, what would be some last parting advice that you would give to our audience? Our audience is mainly business people out there. You know, they could be executives, small business owners. What's some maybe advice that you would give? And then also too, if you're open to it, maybe you can share your email or phone number if anybody wanted to get in touch with you and get maybe a question answered or something like that. I'm sure that if you're open to having them reach out to you, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love working with people. Is there an opportunity here to maybe plug what I'm working on too currently?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Cool?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Tell us what you're working on.
Yeah. So, well, first let me go back and talk about the advice for a second. For business owners, the one piece of advice I would give is remember that work is work. Right. I think sometimes we get so caught up in our work and we get so passionate about it. And that's awesome. Like, that's such a great thing. But at the end of the day, it's an ends to a mean or means to an end. And your work it should come secondary to your family, to your friends, to your community. If you can build those all in together, I think that's a really powerful thing. But I think sometimes, like when we fail at business, like we get so worked up that it becomes world ending to us. And we just feel like there's nothing that we can do about it. The world's over. Our world's over. I can't start from this. I cannot, I think about that Tiger King meme. I will never financially recover from this, right? Work is work. And at the end of the day, if you can build your brand, your personal brand and your identity, and have work be a component of that and your business be a component of that, you're going to find success. Find out what you love to do and find out how you can love and serve other people. That's such a key point. And that kind of segues into kind of what I'm working on now. I sold the company and I got asked a lot. Even the guy who purchased the company, he was like, I'm still not sure why you're selling this. Venture's doing really, really well. It really doesn't make sense. Like, are you just looking for a quick cash grab? And to be honest, and I told him, I was like, I don't really know. I do know I'm not spending enough time with my family. That's one. I had a daughter and a brand new son, and I have been spending a lot of late nights at the office to keep this thing running. And so that was a major, major component for me. And so I do think things were a little bit out of integration there, that wasn't integrated properly. But I also, one of the things that kind of kept coming back to me with what we were doing was there were a lot of people that I felt like were sending money to us and giving us a lot of money that maybe the fit wasn't that great. And what I mean by that is there was a lot of components that were missing that they could be taken care of on their own end. And I mentioned before that I love to be transparent with people and help them understand and help kind of bring them in on that journey. I know so many marketing agencies that they hold all the rights to their clients' websites and their domains and their emails, and they hold these and kind of hold it over their head. And it's like, you want to change one line on the website, you got to go through a 2-week process to get that thing turned around. And I always hated that. Like, I felt like the business owner should always have control over these things and have a semblance of control. And we're just a partner that is kind of like a guide that's helping them along in this process. And we've got boots on the ground that can help with that. And so, yeah, I've been working for the last year with the piano guys. They were a former client. They came to me and said, hey, we would love to continue working with you. We love what you do. And I love the brand. So I felt like it was a really good fit. And I continue and working for them full time. But in my nights and weekends, I've been working on building a marketing course. I've really kind of dug into online education. I really do believe that there are marketing agents, I believe that there are small businesses, many small businesses that have the ability to do a lot of things in the marketing world for themselves that they can kind of take back that ownership over. And again, that comes from a place of understanding that a lot of people have been burned by agencies before. And a lot of people are often paying for things they really don't need to be paying for. Simple things like setting up a Google My Business, or, knowing where their domain is and where it's hosted, and having that information. And so what I am really passionate about right now is helping some of these small businesses understand some of these very, very basic marketing concepts that nobody's ever taught them, or they've really had the time to be taught, so that they can have enough knowledge to be dangerous to work with an agency successfully, or implement some of these things on their own and start to see traction in a way that's not just burning through their marketing budget, right? I mean, so many times people don't know what they're getting, what they're doing, what they don't even know where their marketing money is going. They're just like, I know I'm spending a couple thousand a month and I hope it's working. My hope is that the course that I'm developing right now is going to help people realize that they have a little bit more control than they think they have, and that, nobody knows their business better than them. And so they're going to take that information, run with it, and build strategy and build some of these things to be able to really kind of take back control of their marketing. The one analogy that I use is, everybody's had that experience where they take their vehicle into the gas, or they take their vehicle in to get it looked at by the mechanic, right? You've got one problem and you know what that problem is. I just had this happen recently. My car died on the freeway going up to Salt Lake City, just out of the blue. It looked and sounded like a transmission issue. And I was like, my car's toast. I'm dead. I had a very expensive tow ride back to St. George, and I took it over to the dealer. And those dealer guys, they're good, but man, do they just love to add every possible little thing. They're like, okay, here's the deal. And what's funny, it wasn't a transmission issue. The filter had been installed backwards last time I went and got my oil changed, and it had just sucked all the garbage into the system and caused it to act like a transmission failure. So literally the only problem here, I'd just spent like $1,200 on a tow back to St. George because I was halfway up to Salt Lake. But the only problem was a filter. But of course they're saying, let's add the brake pads. Let's also add an oil change. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And they're saying, oh, you definitely need some new suspension on the back. The arm's cracked. I can tell you it's not looking good, and you're going to want to fix this. And I'm sat here going, okay, I know enough about cars to be dangerous, but I also don't know exactly what I need. Like, is he serious? Is that an issue? I don't know. And so what should have been probably, $500 or $600 bill ended up being closer to $2,000 or $3,000, because I did not know what I needed. I did not have the tools necessary to know what I needed. And that happens in the world of marketing. You have SEO experts that come in and say, oh, you need this and you need to be doing this. And if you're not doing this, it's not going to happen. And you're like, okay, I think that's right. I mean, I know enough to be dangerous, but I think way too often that experience happens where people end up spending way more than they need to, even in areas and disciplines that they don't need to be spending that time in. And my goal is with this course to be able to help them feel like they've got enough knowledge to have intelligent conversations with other professionals, or to hire somebody, or even do a little bit of it themselves and have a little bit more ownership over their marketing strategy.
So full-on marketing course. Now, is there anywhere, obviously you're in the process of building it. Is there, for maybe future listeners, where they can go?
Yeah, for sure. So
or maybe they can go check something out now. Maybe it's something in process.
So we're dead in the middle of it right now. I've been scripting and getting filming ready. I'm hoping now this will be launched in September.
Okay.
And when we do, you can go to mastermarketingmagic.com, and that's where you can get access.
Mastermarketingmagic.com.
And if you happen to find it before the end of 2024, you're in luck. We're offering it at a discount, right? Knowing that you're going to be able to get in. I want to get as many people in here as possible. And the other component that's important to me is I want to build a community of small business owners that can help each other from a marketing perspective. So there's a component to this that once you subscribe, yes, you get access to the course. There's like 15 different sections. There's 50 plus videos in there, walking through very fundamental, basic things, everything from building paid ads to basics of branding to how to use AI and generative AI in your marketing and in your business. But the other component is that community where they can get in and ask other business owners, hey, my business is this, I'm thinking about doing this. What's worked for you guys? What has been something successful for you? And I just think there's something so powerful about a community of like-minded individuals that are wanting to help each other succeed. I mean, that's how I always got my best clients, and that's how I got my best feedback, was just interacting and engaging with the people around me. So that's a huge component I'm really excited about.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, this has been so much fun, Jacob. Pick your brain. And yeah, I mean, obviously you have quite a bit of experience in your short time in marketing and had a lot of success. So I hope people take advantage and look at that course that you're developing. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
be able to do that. So anyway, yeah, thanks again for jumping on here. This is kind of a new podcasting app, and I love it because it's supposed to have nice recording. So hopefully the video and the recording is recorded on both sides. It's not like a Zoom call like some people are used to doing, but yeah, it's actually made for podcasting. So I'm excited to see how it turns out. And so yeah, thanks again, and appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, no worries. And if anybody, like I said, if you want to reach out to me, I'm always happy to talk. You can always reach me at my email, just Amundsen, AMUNDSEN.Jacob@gmail.com. Love chatting with small business owners and anyone who wants to chat. Happy to talk.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Thank you for joining us today and for tuning into this insightful conversation with Jacob A Munson. His expertise and experiences have provided us with some great takeaways. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow our podcast on your favorite platform, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more great content. Stay connected with us on social media. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Until next time, keep learning, stay inspired, and continue to pursue your passions. Thanks again for listening. This is the Jeff Glines Show.